I'm not always pushing, for targets, because I believe that if you just push for the targets, that you end up with bad sales as well, and that's not what we want. But it's part also of the mindset of the company. Even though we grew a lot, we didn't change that much the processes. So we didn't put a bunch of control everywhere to make sure that people are doing the right thing. No, it's a matter of trust as well with the salespeople. I wanted also to be not just a salesperson, but to be what I call today a technical sales, which means that you need to have a deep knowledge of what you're selling. It's not just relationship. It's not just shaking hands. It's way more than that. Keep on having those salespeople as impacted, as involved, I would say, in the evolution of the company. Because simply today, yes, we are growing, but still we are doing the same job than 5 years ago. So we try to go back to the basics and make sure that the service that they got as a smaller company before, they still get it today.
Welcome to Road to Revenue Leadership, a show that candidly explores how hard it is to create, build, and scale world-class revenue organizations by leaders that have been there, done that, and have seen the results. My name is Dylan Mendes, founding CEO of USite, and I'm excited that you're tuning in to the podcast. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Enjoy. The goal is just to kind of explore your revenue leadership story, how you started your career, how you end up where you are now, maybe false belief you had along the way, and of course, also very keen to understand what the Odoo's vision and story is, because I know that you guys had a specific approach or certain beliefs that not everyone agree with, and so I think it's going to be interesting to deep dive into that.
Sure. Perfect.
So maybe let's start a little bit with your background, because I saw that you started as a professional banker at KBC, and then sooner or later you moved to Odoo. So maybe can you explain a little bit about yourself, about how this all started?
Yeah, so basically it all started when I finished the studies. I did a bachelor in marketing, and I was actually thinking of doing a master degree as everyone was doing, basically, right? And so at that moment I realized that actually I got a couple of offers on my desk without actually applying to any jobs. And I got offers from, for instance, KBC, which was actually CBC at that time. And I was not really looking for it, but yet they proposed to me to have an interview. And, I thought, okay, why not? It could be a good exercise, even though I was not really thinking of accepting any kind of job in that kind of industry. I said, why not? And actually the day before, I remember I was at a party and I was about to cancel the interview. And I said, okay, you know what? I should go. So I went. I went to the interview and
had
then
nothing
I realized,
to lose anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I went there, I realized that it could be an actual different way to do a master degree, because they were proposing a really good traineeship where basically you were passing through all the different departments and you were actually working at the same time and getting a salary at the same time too. So actually they got my interest. I went for the first interview, second interview. I think I had in total 3. Then I received the offer. Then I said, okay, now what do I do? So I said, okay, why not? I will go for it. And I took the job. And so during the first, I would say 6 months, I think, it's really a position where you do a bunch of things. You start as a cashier, I would say, during the 3 first week. Then you learn what it is to be in the in a bank, like really doing the basic operation of the bank, etc. And then you have a training as well with exams, where basically you meet all the big management, the big manager of the bank, and you learn a lot of things, actually, a lot of finance, a lot of credit analysis, the risk management as well. And it was actually quite interesting. So after, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Was that also the driver of you for taking that job in the first place, or was it also because you got paid while you could actually learn in the work field?
No, for me it was really to have a really good kind of master degree, I would say, but in the professional world with professionals that were doing that every day. And I think that was really the thing that made me switch my mindset. And
did they challenge you with that? Because I can still think back of my years as a student, and it's not that long ago. I think people still think like that. They still think that a master degree is needed, is necessary, is kind of required now to get a well-paid job, let's say.
Yeah.
While now, me myself being in the field, I'm thinking, no, actually, maybe it's better to have actual experience instead, especially in the field of business. So, were you challenged that way as well back then?
Yes, I was actually. Now the reality is that at that time, I still believe that today having a master degree will open way more doors than not having it, right? Now it's a choice that I made really because simply I was dying to work. That was really my goal, and so I said, okay, you know what, I will try that, and we'll see later on what kind of risk I took, right? And so thanks to that, it helped me really to gain 2 years of experience actually, because my goal was always to work in the IT, not because I was already in the world, but really because I was interested into the IT world. And after 2 years at KBC, I said, okay, now it's time, because otherwise I will have a sticker in my back, banker, and I will never be able to get out of the industry. And so then I started to look for a company, and my criteria were quite strict actually. I was looking for a company that was a startup. I wanted to be international and to also have like a visionary CEO. So to have someone that I would really be able to follow. And I ended up applying for OpenERP at the time. So OpenERP was
it an easy found? I mean, did you find them easily?
Actually, not really. I remember that I applied to a lot of different companies without really thinking that it would be the right one. And I remember that at that time I found the Only Sales Job platform. That was actually a different kind of platform that was really just focusing on the startups, mainly startups. And that's where I actually found my main interest, I would say. And that's where I got to know OpenERP, and then I got the interviews, etc. And that's when I joined actually now Odoo, but it was still OpenERP at that time. That was really the process.
Super interesting. Also, at that time, what number employee were you at OpenERP in the time?
I think that we were around 50. At least in Belgium, because just in sales we were 15 sales, and I mean the R&D was quite low, the consulting team as well. So probably around 50, but we already had the Indian and American office. But it was a couple of employees at that time.
Okay, and so how many employees does Odoo has now?
2,500.
2,500. All right, so you made. I think you experienced a very interesting growth story at Odoo. Maybe for the people that doesn't know what Odoo does or ambition to do, can you kind of do the short pitch of what Odoo is?
Yeah. So basically, we are a suite of application with the goal to really provide the best tools to any kind of company. Obviously, today our main focus is the SME market. And so when I say SME, start from one employee. So if you wish to just do your invoicing because you're starting a company and you need something to invoice and not Excel, obviously, then Odoo is the right solution. But we also have really big companies that are actually managing the full flow from the production to the accounting, to the website, to the e-commerce, so really the full flow. And that's really the strength of Odoo, is to have everything integrated. The integration is key because thanks to that, you avoid the double encoding, you avoid a lot of administrative tasks. And that's our goal, is to make companies efficient as fast as possible, because the implementation as well should be as low as possible as well.
Love it. Love the ambition. Maybe to go back to your story, when you got in contact with a recruiting team, which is also probably with being in contact with the visionary CEO that you were looking for back then. How was it like? How was the interview process like? What questions were you asked? What attracted you also at that company? Share, please.
Well, at that time, actually, the first interview was quite easy. It was the basic one where, I had to speak English, see what was my interest into open source, because that's also key in the company. That was the first one. The second one was actually with the sales manager, so it was a bit more challenging. And then we were talking about the IT market, why the IT market, and also then we went into workshops where I remember they put me in front of a screen. It was actually in front of a software that was actually Open Bravo at the time. It doesn't exist anymore, I believe. And my goal was to actually make a flow. I had to do a quotation in Open Bravo, and that's basically to understand how you think in front of a computer. And then I had the last round, which was with actually my previous boss, who was actually the commercial director at that time, where it was more, okay, will it fit the company with the challenges that we had at that time? Because obviously in 2011, I think, we're not at the same level where we are today. It was a difficult job, and I remember him telling me, are you sure you want to leave the banking sector for a startup? It's risky. The company could sink anytime, you know? So yeah, that was the kind of interview that we had at that time.
Yeah, because how it's established was Open ERP back then?
I mean, it was really the beginning. I think we were not even making 5 million in terms of turnover. I think, yeah, the first round was actually raised. So I think they raised 3 million the first time, $3 million. It was only in 2014 that we raised an extra 10 million. But yeah, it was really the beginning. And at that time was sometimes, salaries were paid quite late, quite often, because we're still struggling with the cash flow and with the global position.
Okay, that kind of also explain why they asked you then the question that you realize you're leaving a well-saved job for the startup life.
And it was the case because, when I joined the company, we're only doing indirect business. And at that time, we're still fully open source. So it means that we were selling partnerships to companies that were reselling a free software, basically, because we didn't do the switch into the business model. So obviously, it was really insecure. And then it's only a couple of years after that we really switched the business model, and we start with the open core model, which means that now we were not only open source, but also with an extra layer, which is a paid layer that you have to, it's the Odoo Enterprise that we know today.
Right. Okay, right. So when you entered at Odoo and you see that startup opportunity, you see that there is a lot of growth ambition with very nice vision. What is your ambition at the time? What do you want to make as an impact? What was your promise to the founders and to the rest of the company?
What I liked about the contact that I had with the company was really that it was everything was actually starting. It was the very beginning of the process, and everything needs to be created, and that's something that I was really excited about. So my first goal was to learn, because at that time my knowledge in terms of IT was quite low. So that was the main focus, to learn how that industry worked, learn how the software worked, and I wanted also to be not just a salesperson, but to be what I call today a technical sales, which means that you need to have a deep knowledge of what you're selling. It's not just relationship, it's not just shaking hands, it's way more than that. And actually that DNA we still have today at Odoo. Our salespeople have pretty much the same knowledge as the consultant, because they need to be able to make demonstration. They are doing the qualification of the needs, and they also provide directions to our customers when they need to take a direction while going for Odoo or not. And so that was really my main goal. And I think that quite quickly I learned that it was actually exactly the right spot, because we had no pre-sales, we had basically nothing at that time. And so the first week, I believe, I got my computer, I had my phone, and it was like, okay, in 2 weeks' time, you will have to provide the webinar to probably around 300 people, so you better be ready. Good luck, and that was it. And I think it's probably the best learnings that you could have. And I still think a lot about it, because today, obviously with around 1,000 sales in the world, we are spending a lot of time on the onboarding process, on how to onboard people, how to make them efficient as soon as possible. And actually, I still believe that was the best school ever, because actually, thanks to that, you don't want to look stupid in front of a bunch of people. When you have a webinar after 2 weeks, you want to master the webinar. And today, obviously, people they have more time because they have a better structure, and thanks to that, they're really able to learn step by step. I think obviously it was a bit harsh at that time. Now today it's way better for them as well, and we see that the results are also amazing. But yet I still believe that it was a really good school.
I can definitely see why you say that. So you started as indeed business partnership consultant for the EMEA region. You then moved up to be a functional sales consultant. I guess that's more of the technical sales and really come in between the different sales executives and partners and profiles like that. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So the recruitment, the partnership recruitment team is responsible to recruit the reseller of tomorrow. So the partners that are going to resell the software in the future. While as a functional consultant, it's really selling the software to companies directly. So it's really a direct offer where you spend a lot of time doing demonstration, qualification of the needs of the customer. So it's a completely different work, I would say.
Okay, gotcha. And then in 2016, you became sales manager at Odoo. And so can you, super curious there to kind of understand, what that jump was to you, and what the goal was also. What was the responsibility you took on when you became sales manager for the region?
So when I became a sales manager, I actually took over the team I was working in, and it was a team of 6 people at that time. 6 people with obviously the goal to grow massively. It was really important because at that time the offer was not that mature yet. We were still discovering a bit the direct sales approach, having direct customers, spending a lot of time on the methodology as well of implementing this new way of working. And so it was really important to have the right people, and as I say, technical salespeople. So quite quickly, we have started to recruit again because we were coming from a period of time where we had actually a bigger team. I think the team went up to 14 people. Then we had to lay off a couple of people, and that's when I took over. And from there, we started over to recruit more people. And that was the main goal, to recruit as fast as possible, the best profile, and to make sure that the offer that we had was really growing at the same time. And actually, it was really at that period of time that we got the benefits of the switch of the business model. We got also the maturity to start to really be efficient as well in the process, in the sales process. And thanks to that, we went up quite quickly to a team of 20 people, I would say. And then step by step, it continues. And actually, if you look at that specific team today, it's, I think, the biggest team on the sales floor, and it represents around 100 people.
All right, 100 people. Globally or for the region?
No, just for the Belgian office. If you look at on a global scale, it's probably around 500 people.
Look at that. I need to think bigger. All right. Well, on your LinkedIn, you also mentioned that when you became sales manager, you also created a performance-oriented culture, which enabled Odoo to become one of the leading B2B sales organizations. So I got to ask, what did this entails, and what did this actually mean for Odoo?
I think it's a culture. It's a culture that we try to push a lot, and it's something that matters a lot, because simply today what I see is that the difference between a good salesperson and an extremely good salesperson, it changed completely. You see that the extremely good ones are the ones that are going to do the extra mile, and thanks to that, they will probably triple the target or sometimes even go higher than that. And I'm not always pushing, for targets, because I believe that if you just push for the targets, that you end up with bad sales as well, and that's not what we want. We want to have a quality mindset where people are always putting the interest of the company first, and then obviously their own interest. And so that's why I'm talking about performance, because I think that it goes together. And it's really the day-to-day that we try to follow up. And we try to make sure that when a sales is done, it's because of we are sure that the software is a good fit for the customer, and that the expectations are set as well from day one. And then obviously that our salespeople are doing the maximum in terms of demonstration as well, to convince the customer and to find out a win-win situation. And that's really what we expect on a daily basis.
I get that. When you say, you have the good versus the, let's call them the A players for now, what differentiates an A player except going the extra mile? Do you see some characteristics, some personal traits that are different? Do they just embrace the culture? Is that also super important to have them aligned with the culture of Odoo?
Yeah, what you realize is that you have those type of people that are joining the company and from day one will actually be on target. When you try to understand why, you see straight away that in terms of product knowledge, they're straight away quite high. So it means that they spend a lot of time on the learnings, first of all, to understand what is the plus value of the solution, what is the customer looking for. And it's also the people that are the most active on the sales floor. So you will always see them on the phone or always on site with the customer, trying to understand really deeply what the customer is looking for. And then you will see that the quality of the demonstration that they provide is actually super high. The customer ends up like, okay, where do I sign? Simply because they have seen their use case during just a sales pitch in a way, even though it's more than that. And so it's in every single details. There's no recipe, I would say, where you will say, yeah, it's A, B, C, D. No, it's in every single action that you're going to take during your day that you will see the difference. The qualification will be better. The time they will spend with the customer on the phone or face-to-face will be high quality because simply they will ask the extra question about the company. Yes, you are maybe a manufacturer, what kind of product you do, but they will go really deep in that process to make sure that whenever they provide the demonstration, they will actually be able to show the full flow and not just to be on the very high end of the demo. So it's really a bunch of details, but when you end up putting all those details next to each other, you end up with a high quality salespeople.
I love that. Can you coach them on being more like that, or do you really have to recruit on those personal traits and having them being interested and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as we say, it's a matter of mindset. So it's true that in the recruitment as well, we're looking for those people that are really eager to learn, eager to be part of the project as well. And afterwards, obviously, it's part of their personality as well, and that's why you will also see that in that specific team, the direct sales team, if I take them, you have a bunch of people that are either out of school or with let's say 2-3 years of experience, because they are willing really to learn a lot and to do that extra miles that we are looking for.
Yeah, love it. In 2018, you then became Chief Commercial Officer at Odoo. So that's already or almost a good 5 years in that position. And so maybe the role back then versus what it is now has changed, and I suppose it kind of has. But can you maybe explain those last 5 years? What was the challenge back then, and how has this evolved to what it is today?
Yeah. When it started, I was actually promoted as Chief Commercial Officer together with my colleague Pavitra Singh, who was in charge of the indirect part of the business, and I was responsible for the direct part of the business. So at that time, it was only, let's say, 60 salespeople in Belgium, and probably double if you take the rest of the world, a bit more. And so at that time, the goal was really still to clarify how the direct and indirect will collaborate together and how we could keep this philosophy of fast-growing environment. Now, obviously, a couple of years later, we are now at the level where we have thousands of salespeople in the world and growing quite fast, because if you take the goal of this year, we'll probably have an extra 50% on top. So we'll probably end up with 1,500 sales, and always the same repartition. Half will be on the indirect and half will be on the direct, because today I would say that the revenue is basically 50-50. And our goal obviously at that time was more to keep on growing on a certain direction, which was mainly being better, being more mature, and making sure that we provide the right quality to our customer. Obviously today it's still the same, but with the difference that we address different type of customers as well. We have new teams that have been created. We are focusing as well on the mid-market and corporate. That was not the case before. And also, and that's something that is extremely important, keep on having those salespeople as impacted, as involved, I would say, in the evolution of the company. Because simply today, yes, we are growing, but still we are doing the same job than 5 years ago. So we try to go back to the basics and make sure that the service that they got as a smaller company before, they still get it today, even though we grew quite a lot.
Yeah, because I can imagine you have not as much flexibility in terms of, defining new processes, giving a presentation out of the blue for 300 people, like you used to in the beginning. So how do you still, keep them challenged or give them the flexibility you had in the beginning? That's maybe you cannot do the same, but how do you try to make this happen, what you just shared with me?
But it's part also of the mindset of the company. Even though we grew a lot, we didn't change that much the processes. So we didn't put a bunch of control everywhere to make sure that people are doing the right thing. No, it's a matter of trust as well with the salespeople. And actually, still today, you see that those people are joining the company after 1 month now. They receive leads and they start working with their customers, their potential customers, and it could be CEOs, it could be managers of a big corporation as well. It doesn't matter. We just we just make sure that they have the right support from their manager, from their team leader, from myself, to provide the best service possible. And that's really one of the key reasons why we keep on evolving so fast, simply because people have the flexibility and have the responsibility and the autonomy to take action. And we always say to our people, if no one else is there to decide, you take the decision. And I think that that's really something that is in the mindset, and that will keep them moving fast and as fast as possible.
Yeah. No, definitely keep that one. I think a lot of company can benefit from that. But also specifically because I think that also brings speed into the organization. Letting people, taking ownership over things, letting them decide if no one else is there. And I think the speed is everything, especially also when you have to act with customers. So definitely can see why that's part of the Odoo mindset. When I talk about people about Odoo that are in a commercial context, they have already mentioned that they are aware that Odoo doesn't do outbound sales. And so I definitely want to touch on that topic. And maybe before we go deep into that, maybe just, let's also define what that actually mean. So you guys don't have SDRs in the team, right? Sales development reps, business development reps? No.
No, we don't work through SDR. All the salespeople actually receive leads, inbound leads, and they contact those leads, right? And so they receive around like 200 leads a month, depending on the teams, obviously. Right. So if we take the mid-market, it's a bit less. And they contact them, they do the qualification, demonstration, everything. But those people are actually contacting us, and we are not contacting them out of nowhere.
All right, so it's not, because when you say at the end they receive leads, are those people with an actual request for more information, for a demo, for a call, and not, just activities like they tried a tool on themselves, they are they are subscribed on the freemium model. Is it stuff like that, or is it really a request that they have?
So most of the time, it's you have different type of leads. You have the ones that are just testing the solution, right? So that could be some leads, and then we do nurturing on them to activate them. Then we have also the customers that are coming on the website, asking questions directly on the live chat. Those are different types. Then you have the ones that are actually clicking on our website to actually book a demonstration with us. And that's also a different type. So we have different types of leads like that. But we also obviously contact the ones that are just testing the software. That way they can also benefit from our support. And as you know, we have a freemium offer. There's also a massive source of leads for us because simply they test the solution for a while. They actually sometimes use the solution for years. And then sometimes they get a need and then they can become a customer. Same goes with the open source community as well, because we have a bunch of users that are actually open source members, and they also sometimes need to have extra features, and then they become also potential leads for our salespeople.
Right. And have you ever tried to do outbound where, it is the sales that really go out, check whatever company could be in the market right now, reach out to them, even though there was no initial interest or intent of marketing activity reported? Have you ever tried that before in the past or not?
Yes, we tried. Now, the reality, and that's really the output that we got, is simply that the business model that we have today doesn't work for outbound. The CAC would be way too expensive. If you look at a customer today, with the new pricing that we launched in October, today a user will pay it's 19.9 euros per month. So if you have to close a deal like that, let's imagine it will take around 3 to 6 months to convince someone outbound to start using the solution if they don't know Odoo. And so basically it doesn't worth it because the cost in terms of acquisition is too high. And so basically we'll lose money on that. So that's not the goal. We prefer to invest upfront and to have a massive marketing tool. And I would say that the best marketing that we could have is actually the solution itself. So Odoo as a software. And that's why we have those big events, the Odoo experience that we have in October every year where we launch the new version. And that's why we invest that much as well in R&D, because we know that the product itself will be really attractive for the customer with all the new features that we'll have. That's the reason why we launch a new version every year, because we know that really the product is the main traction in terms of lead. Actually, every year at the Odoo experience, so the event in October, you see a massive spike of the leads, and then it stays stable and it keeps on growing smoothly during the rest of the year. So it's something really, really important. And thanks to that, we don't have to do outbound because, as I said, the outbound would be a bit more complex if you look at the business model that we have today and the kind of pricing that we also offer to our customers. It would be not really relevant.
Okay. Super interesting, because I also would think that maybe it depends on the segments you would be attacking. If there is a segment
You're
that,
right.
in terms of. And so has it been an idea to actually maybe for a small segment of the market go with really much of an outbound activity, but then you decided in terms of focus, it's probably not good to bring that kind of noise into the organization? Is that maybe
I think it's indeed for the mid market, it could be easier as well to go for outbound. And so the only reason why we don't do it yet, it's simply because we have enough leads to maintain the activity for now. And so and I think it's a luxury issue, right? We have enough, so we keep on working on what we have, and the day we'll need, then we'll go for outbound if necessary on that specific market, but not for the SME market, because then again the CAC won't be sufficient.
No, definitely. But what I kind of hear you say though is that it really also depends on the core and the structure of the business model in its first place. Because I think that fact that you guys are open source, the fact that you have the online, the open source community, the fact that you have a freemium are all really important elements in, at the end, the lead generation element, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's really critical in the lead generation, and it brings for sure a lot of our leads on top of all the what we do in marketing. Otherwise, the marketing department is working a lot and taking a lot of initiative as well. So I think that all together, that's why we have all those leads. Now, again, I really believe that it's also simply because of the pricing structure that we have. If we were doing outbound, as I say, it will take months to convert those customers, and it won't be really sufficient and then too long actually to convince them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because do you know what's the time to be, the first time they got in contact with Odoo to actually taking a subscription at Odoo? And when is the start time also that you kind of capture?
Most of the time, so again, I'm talking about the SME market. The sales cycle is around like between 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Now, obviously, with the price change that we had, it changed a lot. We see that for the really small customers, it's way shorter than that. It can be a couple of weeks. And simply because also we have the model where you can do a self-subscription. So you go on the website, you put your credit card, and boom, you can start. You see that some people are just ending on the website, testing the solution, say, oh, it sounds great. I will test for a couple of months. And then your sales cycle is not even a day then, so that's also with all the change that we see, we do not have enough vision on that yet, because again, it's only been 4 or 5 months. So we need more time to really see how the customer will react to that. So we're still analyzing that.
You definitely made the transition there for me, because I 100% wanted to ask you that question, because I saw a post of Fabien on LinkedIn about the price changing and how that actually impacted you guys on a revenue level. And maybe for the people that haven't had the chance to see that post of Fabien, can you maybe share what did you do a couple of months ago, and what of impact has on the customer base?
So we have decided to change our pricing structure and to actually decrease the pricing quite dramatically, because simply before the structure of the pricing was per user and per application. So it means that beforehand it was 22 euros per user, and then you had a small cost per application that was changing a bit depending on the application. But for instance, CRM was 16 euro per month. Then you had accounting that was something like 30 euros a month. So I don't remember by heart all the pricing, but that was basically it. So let's say that one user with 5 applications would pay something like 80 to 90 euro per month, which is actually super expensive if you think about it, right? And especially because, again, if you think about our goal, which is to help the SME market to use the right tools, I mean, it's the right opposite. We make it way too expensive. And so we decided to decrease that price massively and to go down to 19.9 euros per user with no extra fee. So it means simply that the price will go down and that the revenue of the company will go down as well. And we balance a little bit.
No add-ons for the extra applications. That's what you...
No, exactly. So it's just the cost of the user, and that's it. And so the way to manage it is also to balance a little bit with the mid-market, I would say, where we increase a little bit the price per user, but always by providing all the applications. So now you have, let's say, 2 type of pricing. You have the standard one and the custom one. For the standard one is 19.9. For the custom one is 29.9. So still, both are really, really cheap. But thanks to that, we've been able really to address the problem. And yes, it's a cost of something like 10 million euros, for the company. Now, what we were expecting, obviously, it's to increase massively the amount of users that we had before. And actually, it's quite the case, as we have seen the amount of customer growing by 2.8 what we had before. So per month now, we have really increased massively the amount of customers that we get. We used to be around like 1,500 customers a month, and we're around like 4,000 to 5,000 a month now.
All right. That's not a small improvement.
No.
All right. And so can you maybe share kind of how did you guys go through that reasoning of maybe that is the right move, and maybe, yes, we will be hurt in the short term, but on the longer term, that's really the thing that we got to do. How did you guys, process that thinking?
Yeah, it was a long process. So it took a couple of months of discussing, analyzing, fighting a bit as well, because sometimes we're not really aligned with what we wanted to do. For sure, the principle was quite clear. We wanted to change the price structure because it was becoming too complex. And people that were actually coming on a website were lost. And so we had to really make sure that those people were talking to salespeople to clarify the situation. So the problem was there. Now, the very first time we talked about changing our price was more because everyone on the market was actually increasing the price. Everyone. And so we said, okay, what should we do? Inflation is it's sky high. So should we go for a higher price? Yes, no. After, as I think 1 week, we said, no, we are not going to increase our price. That's not our goal. And then we said, yeah, but still we have an issue. So how to fix it? And so we started to do a lot of analysis. We did a lot of market analysis as well and checked a bit what the competition was doing, etc. And we knew that for sure we wanted to have two different packages where basically you were paying an extra fee if you needed to have extra features. Like today, if you take the custom package, it's because you need to be able to connect with external API. It's because you need to have a specific hosting hosting like a PaaS, for instance. It's because you need to have the multi-company. So basically, if you need extra value, then you pay a little bit more. But if you use the software out of the box, then you pay a little bit less. And so that's really the philosophy that we followed. Now, the complexity was to set the right pricing. And for that, again, we checked and we did the analysis on all the customers we had. We did the average pricing that customers were paying. And our goal was not to increase the price, really not. It was really to decrease. And that's a calculation that we did on average for all our customers. And then at the end, we took the decision to go for that specific price. And again, I think that what is also really important is to realize that today for less than 20 euros, you are able to get a full ERP solution, software solution where you can get access to email marketing, you can have website, you can have your accounting, you can have your project management, your CRM, everything for less than 20 euros, which is actually less than the budget of the coffee per month for a company.
That's right. It's definitely a killer value prop. First of all, thank you for sharing that, because super interesting use case. To go a little bit deeper on that, who was kind of involved in that project, in the decision making?
So it was about the executive committee. So it's Fabien Pancars, who is the CEO. You had Anthony Le Suisse, who is actually the CTO, and then Alessandro Mazzocchetti, who is the CFO, and myself. So it's the four of us. But obviously, whenever we do that exercise, we spend long days, analyzing, doing a couple of different things. And so we also bring a lot of different people into the room. So I remember going in on the sales floor, and bringing people in the room, like, come with me. So what do you think if we do that? And then, the goal was to be challenged by the salespeople that are also addressing that problem every day. But it was also with developers that were actually doing some analysis on our current database, or with people that were actually in contact with their colleagues in other companies, etc. So it's the four of us who are taking the decision, but we were also challenged a lot by the colleagues internally in the company.
Mm-hmm. And what about the board members?
And also we also talked about it with the investors.
Yeah, I can imagine, because if you do that step, that has a direct impact also on the revenue you bring in, which is, I'll think, a very important element of growth. They might be interested to be involved, or to be kind of challenged on that.
Of course.
But, all right, definitely. No, so super interesting. So exactly. So the thing that really kicked that off was because the pricing was too complex in the first place. Was that kind of the only reason that you understood that people? Because how does a project like that come on your to-do list? Is it, and how does it get priority also?
First it's when, as I said, it's really when the competition started to raise the price everywhere. We're really then, focusing on that and asking ourselves, do we do the right thing? And when we realized that actually it was first unclear, and second, it was too high as well for the SME, then it became like the first priority that we had. And we knew that we had also a kind of timing, because whenever we do that kind of changes, we always want to introduce those changes during the Odoo experience, the big event that we have. So it was a timing. So I think we started 6 months before, and we knew that we had 6 months to decide whether we go for it, yes or no. until the very end. I think 1 month before, I was not sure if we were going for it or not. And then we were all feeling really comfortable with the pricing when everyone, even the salespeople, were aware of what we wanted to do, not how much it will cost, but at least what the price structure will put in place. We said, okay, we feel it's the right moment, and so we went for it.
I think it's a good thing that you guys had a kind of a deadline also on the announcement. It's gonna be on the Odoo event, yes or no, and then you kind of know whether you make the move or not. You also mentioned that some people, I mean, there was a lot of discussion whether or not you would do it. Even a month before doing it, you were actually not sure. So what were maybe counter arguments of doing it that kind of complicated the decision?
But it's always a jump in a situation that you don't know. For years, we had a stable situation because the last time we changed our pricing was in 2016. Before that, we were changing every year almost because the business model was unclear, and so it was really difficult. So obviously, it's always difficult when you're in a good position. You are growing well. I mean, we're still growing at 60% every year. So I mean, cannot really complain. And so you're like, okay, but yet we're going to change our price and be at risk. And so that's basically the main reason why you're like, oh, will we really do it? Especially because now on top, I mean, we are talking about a different size as well. And we know that if we miss the train, we'll miss by a lot of energy because it will take a long time to recover. Yeah, I think that for sure. I mean, when you see the amount of customers that now we have every month and that we are helping every day with the business, I think that for sure the risk was a good risk to take. Now again, I think that it's a bit too early to see the full potential of this new price structure, and so we are still waiting for at least the first Q to be done. That way we can really have a clear analysis of all the numbers. But at least till now, we see that the benefits are there.
All right, so we'll make sure to ask you the question again at the We Are Sales conference in May.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited to have you there, man. It's gonna be fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. It's a good event.
First of all, I have to thank you so much, Sébastien, for being super, honest, transparent, authentic. I really loved our conversation. I hope that our listeners got some good pieces of advice. I'm pretty sure they do, but I hope they see it as well like that.
Sure.
Take the time to give a little bit of shout out of anything you want Odoo related. If you want, if people want to reach out to you, where would you like to send them? And are there maybe, any job openings at Odoo right now that you want to shout out as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I mean, that can be a good option to send them there, or just if they have questions or whatever, they can always contact through LinkedIn or to whatever actually.
All right, duly noted. There is one last question, Sébastien, I ask almost all my guests, and it goes as follow. So, if Sébastien would be a brand, what would it stand for?
That's a good question. If I cannot get out of the other world and what we do on a daily basis, because I believe that that's really my mission for the past 11 years almost. I've been doing the same, and my passion on a daily basis, really, when I see that we help a company and we see really that we can impact them positively, especially when you end up with a customer and you hear, man, you changed the way I worked. And sometimes I believe that it's not because you're working with big companies or with a massive name they change completely the thing. I remember having one of my friends who is actually launching a small company in the gardening industry. And he was struggling with the invoicing of his customers, the quotations, etc. And he told me last time one thing that I really liked. He told me, since now, I think 6 months, I'm using Odoo, and now I feel like I have a coworker, that I have a colleague on a daily basis, And I loved it because I believe that that's really our goal, is to make it simple for those guys that are on a daily basis, working and sometimes struggling with the administrative part. And simply because they use Odoo, they feel like, okay, now they're helped by someone. and it makes their work way easier because they just have to open it every day and change completely the thing. So I would say that, yeah, my brand would be a brand that help the companies to work better and more efficiently. That's for sure.
I love it. I will definitely take that answer. And if I can share also a personal experience, we started actually by using Odoo as well. As the we use the invoicing app, not the invoicing app, but the accounting app. Sorry, the
accounting app. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because at the beginning we did all our accounting ourselves, and so we had to use a software, and we tried a couple of them. And honestly, Odoo was by far one of the most user friendly, and so we did use Odoo for a while.
That's
then
great.
Eventually now we have an accountant that takes care of all of that. But that was cool. My experience with Odoo, and definitely a good one. So.
Brilliant, but that's a good feedback already.
Love it. Well, again, Sébastien, thank you so much. Wishing you only but the best, and of course we see you again at the We Are Sales conference.
Brilliant. Have a nice day.
That's it. We have once again reached the end of an episode. I just really appreciate you all spending the time. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Until next week with a fresh new episode.